Hi, this is Bill Hartzer, and this is the Digital Marketing with Bill Hartzer podcast for May 26, 2022. Go ahead and get started. We have everything recording this week, and everything technology seems to be agreeing with me today. So Google May 22 broad core update. That is what it is called. Google is calling it the May 2022 broad core update. This is a Google algorithm update for organic and natural search results. And so a lot of these SEO tracking and search engine tracking tools are already seeing some volatility in the results, meaning that they are tracking keywords, rankings, and what they're finding is that that there's what we call volatility, and that means that basically that we're going from one particular site ranking for a keyword in one position, and then it's moving up or down in the results. So meaning that it's going back and forth and back and forth. That's usually an indication of a update. Google has officially announced it. We don't know really what involves what it's involved as far as what they're looking for and what they're updating. But we know that it started around May 25th, about 11:30 Eastern time, and it will actually roll out for the next couple of weeks. So it actually will take weeks for it to be completed. So that kind of means that basically even if you all of a sudden are seeing good results right now, that might change in the next couple of weeks. It may actually change for the better, for the worse. It might go back and forth, and it might be a little frustrating for the next couple of weeks. But regardless, we know that it is going to take a couple of weeks for it to be completed. We know that it is a global update, meaning that it is impacting the search results in Google in all regions, all languages across the world. Next up, Alexa rankings. So we know that Alexa has had this for years, Alexa ranking, and basically it's let's say the top 100,000 websites, and you have based on whatever they're looking for in their algorithm to figure out what are the top 100,000 websites. And so we've had this ranking, for years. It really doesn't really mean a lot. I know that, my experience with it in the past is that it essentially is very, it can be manipulated. And so that's the problem that I've had, is that basically there was something to do with, if you redirected traffic to a domain, if you do some certain things, that it would cause your Alexa ranking to go up and get better. So, because of that, I haven't really, for years, probably over 15 years, I haven't really looked specifically at Alexa rankings, because it really hasn't meant too much, at least to me. So we know that it was supposed to be formally shut down May 1st, 2022. So we're now, 26 days into it after it was supposedly shut down. And some of the backend APIs and some of the tools actually are still working to this day. So we're not sure when it will stop working. Like I said, I haven't really been too much of a fan of Alexa rankings. I'd rather look at the Majestic Million, my majestic.com, or actually, frankly, I would like to see your trust flow from Majestic go up higher. And that's more of an indication of that you're doing better, and you're getting, better quality links to your website. I think that's going to be more important than any kind of, Alexa rankings. That's just my personal opinion. So moving on. So Google has been actually showing more search results with the FAQ rich results. So what I say is basically, basically when you do certain search queries, Google has been showing, the FAQs. And what I would like to, what I recommend is that it's really worth it to spend some time adding FAQs, frequently asked questions, to your website. And that could be in the form of content that you just change. You may have content or articles written, but then what you would want to, you can literally do is take some of the paragraphs that answer, essentially give you an answer to something, create a question, and then you have an FAQ on that. So Google has been paying more attention to those, and I think that's a result of people just liking just asking questions and the search queries being much longer. And so meaning that people are using more words, not just 1 or 2 or 3 words in their search result, in their search query. They're actually using several words and asking Google a question now. And so that's more and more. And so Google is going to tend to respond with, frequently asked questions. And for example, if you have gone on your website and you have a page of FAQs, or you include some FAQs at the bottom of a page or an article or some content on your website, then, and you've marked it up, and I would recommend, using FAQ schema markup. So not only do you, let's say create 5 questions on a page, and you have the question, and then you have the paragraph that's the answer, and another question, paragraph, and the answer, and so forth. You have that as content, but then you go to a FAQ schema markup code code generator, and then you put literally in that code generator, you put the question, and then you put the answer, and it will automatically code an FAQ code generator will then actually give you the FAQ markup code. Literally, you can copy it and paste it at the bottom of your post, the bottom or the top, or wherever it feels necessary. And so then you have not only just the content written up on your page, but you also have the markup code that goes along with the content. It's not going to be duplicate at all. It's just in a different format. And so you have the HTML code that's going to give the user that information, the question and the answer, but then you have the FAQ markup, which is going to be the same question, the same answer. And that's actually just so that the search engines can understand and say, and tell them specifically, okay, this is FAQ markup. And so now, naturally, if you do have FAQs on your page, on any pages, and you're using the inlinks.net tool, which I use regularly on most of my websites, inlinks will automatically recognize the FAQ that there's a question and there's an answer. And so since they automatically they will actually automatically generate that FAQ markup code for you and put it on your page. Now, if you want to do this manually, which you can, is I actually like the technicalseo.com tool. It's technicalseo.com/tools/schema-markup-generator. I'll put that in some comments, but basically it's a technicalseo.com schema markup tool, and that generator will actually allow you to generate different types of markup code. You can go to that page, the schema markup generator, and you literally highlight and select the FAQ markup, and then you use it from there. Okay, next item for this week. So John Mcalpin was one of my first guests on this podcast, and we're now well over 70, close to I believe 75 episodes. And John, back a year or two ago, was one of my first guests on the podcast, and or to mention, we talked about SEO audits on that, I believe, on that episode. You might want to go back and review it. But I mentioned John because he's done a lot of work. It's taken him a lot of work to finally get his knowledge panel entry and into the knowledge graph for his personal name. That actually takes a lot of work. I mean, you really have to not only just do the proper markup on your website, you have to connect all the social media accounts. You have to be active on the social media accounts. You actually have to get listings like in Crunchbase and golden.com and so forth. Those are sites that contribute data to the knowledge graph. And then also you need to have written, it helps to write some articles and actually get, the bio information and get, your name and so forth there as well. So there's a lot of work involved. I know that he actually just kind of announced that he finally got that knowledge panel entry just a few days ago. And so luckily, and then he was able to claim it. So if you do a search for John Mcalpin, MCALPIN, you actually will see his knowledge panel entry, which looks pretty good. So that's just a really good example of, personally, I mean, if you have if you are in digital marketing, I would say that you probably should strive at some point to get the knowledge panel entry. It takes some time. It could take a couple of years, in fact, working on it. Now you could do it faster, obviously, but it can take some time. So that's something you should, really strive for if you're going to build up your personal brand as well. Now, the other thing is that, I know that he's going to share how he did it and what his kind of philosophy around that is and how long it took, et cetera, et cetera. But if you do have questions, I know that he will be probably happy to answer them. You can search for him, get in touch with him, probably by Twitter is probably the best way. Anyway, so we have a question this week that came up in a couple of different places, but I want to kind of address that. And it seems like a basic question, but when I do SEO audits and when I do technical audits, this particular issue comes up more than has come up more than once, and it can really be a pretty big issue that can affect a lot of things. So the question really is around the trailing slash at the end of URLs. Okay, so example, hartzer.com/about, and that URL should, in my opinion, be hartzer.com/about/. Okay, and here's the thing: is that same thing with hartzer.com/services/. Okay, there's a difference between hartzer.com/services and hartzer.com/services/ with a slash at the end. Those are actually two different pages. Now you should go to your site. You can do that, this right now, and go to your site and type in, go to a page and look at the page's URL /services/ and remove the slash. When you remove that slash and you hit enter in the, on your keyboard, that actually should, the non-slash version, the one hartzer.com/services should 301 redirect to this version with the slash. Okay. If it does not, then what you're actually doing is you don't have your web server set up properly. There is actually the setting in most web servers that basically says if someone requests a URL without the slash, then 301 redirect to the version with the slash at the end. Okay, the reason why, if that is not set up properly, if you can go to the version without the slash and you can go to the version with the slash, you're essentially you have two copies of your same website. You have, one copy is actually, with the slash, and one is without. The issue is that if you are using, let's say, absolute, relative URLs and in your links versus absolute URLs, which kind of means basically that if you look at the source code, your source code would say, would just say the link to your services page would be /services/ and or /services, and without the full http://www.hartzer.com/services/ those links there. Okay, those links should be absolute URLs. So if you're using relative URLs, in most cases you're using like a staging environment and then you're moving it to the live domain. Well, what happens is that if you're using, it's common in that case to use a relative URL. So what happens is if you actually link to the non-slash version in some pages and you link to the slash version in other pages, what's going to actually happen is that the search engines could theoretically actually start crawling and indexing two different versions of your website. Then when you do look at the search results, if you do site:/hartzer.com or, then what you'll find is specifically that there may be, actually two different versions, some with the slash one, some without. That just gets comes up with a whole big, all sorts of other issues. Okay, so basically what we want to do is we want to make sure we do the use the slash version at the end of URLs on all your pages, and make sure when you link to a page that you're always linking to the version with the slash at the end. That's actually, what ends up happening is you have the duplicate copies and so forth, and it can lead to search engine ranking issues that are not doing, that are easily fixed. So Ron, last item this week is kind of related to domain names. We have, through DM Protect, or on dmprotect.com, and so we've covered another domain name this week, and we have probably about a dozen or so that we're working on. This particular one that we covered for a client, it took a little bit longer than expected. It really should not have taken a week or 2 or 3 weeks, but because basically, I'm not going to mention the URL because I don't really have permission from the client to do that. However, it was a trademark. So let's say, basically it was something like Hartzer.com was the main site, and there's a trademark. They have a trademark on Hartzer.com, for example, and they have a Shopify site, and they actually have a store in, let's say, Dallas. And so it was HartzerDallas.com. So a trademark cityname.com, and somehow there was information shared with the web designer or something like that, and the web designer basically decided that they would take the domain name and basically and put it in their name, so which is stealing a domain name, and which is a cybercrime. So anyway, so basically, it was very clear. And basically that, and it turned out that that site of the store for some reason was taken down by the web designer or whoever was working on it, and then the trademark owner, the owner of the brand, the company, basically came to us and said, hey, basically this person has stolen our domain name. We have no access. We need our Shopify site back up and running. So basically, there was no question on whether or not it was owned by the trademark owner. I mean, it was like, Hartzer.com owns HartzerDallas.com and, the Dallas store address. web address and online Shopify site for that, for that store. So there was no real question. I mean, the trademark is there, and it has been, they've owned it for years, and basically it's was taken by this web designer. So what we had actually have to do is, what I do is I directly went to the registrar, and I have contacts specifically at that domain registrar, and said, hey, this is the situation. They contacted the other registrar, which it was transferred to. It was transferred from 2cows to Namecheap by the domain thief. I went to 2cows, my friend there, and said, hey, look at what's going on. Immediately, but I mean, probably within like half an hour, they were on it, and they went through this, back and forth and so forth, and with Namecheap, and they were fairly quick about it. And then basically, by the time, all said and done, it basically took, we hadn't heard anything in a few days. So I followed up, and basically they said, okay, we just need to go through the turf process, which is basically an agreement between 2cows and Namecheap that basically says that if we transfer the domain back from Namecheap transfers it back to 2cows, then there won't be any liability there between the two registrars. So what actually has to happen is that there's a document that needs to be created, which is a turf document. That document then is basically essentially sent to is a statement, and the domain registrar, my client, needs to sign it and get it notarized, and then scan it and then send it back. Apparently the wrong date was put on it. Like what, there's things like, that basically it's a statement that says, I own this domain name. It was registered, it was transferred between the 2cows and Namecheap without my permission on May 24th, 2022. And everything actually has to be exact as far as the date and the ownership and all that. And then it had to be notarized. The wrong date was put on. It's like the 24th versus the 25th or whatever. So we had to get it notarized again. So when it comes down to it, you realize, if somebody actually steals your domain name and your website, for your Shopify website for your Shopify online store is literally down and people cannot order, okay, because, excuse me, somebody has stolen your domain name. Frankly, even though everything is on the up and up, and it's very clear, there's a trademark involved, and it's very clear that basically this happened and so forth, it can take up to 2 weeks, up to 3 weeks, I have another case I'm working on that's now 11 weeks, where it's so cut and dry that in that case that the domain needs to be transferred back. I mean, and technically speaking, that can be done within minutes, within an hour or two. There's no reason why a Shopify site should be down for 2 weeks. That's 2 weeks of lost revenue because of the stolen domain name. Okay, so we need to be proactive and protect our domain names, because honestly, even though everything is so cut and dry that this person stole it, and then if they agree, even if the thief agrees, okay, transfer it back, it'll take up to it could take up to 2 weeks, sometimes 11 weeks. So this 11 weeks I'm working on now. Okay, I have about a dozen other cases I'm working on, but this one case is just, it is everything that could possibly go wrong with the stolen domain name has gone wrong. And, the hacker basically stole a domain name from GoDaddy, and they got into the account, they got into the email account, Okay, they got access to the email account. When they got access to the email account, they actually went in to the GoDaddy account and were able to, I'm not sure if two-factor authentication was turned on or not. I don't think it was. But anyway, so they got in the GoDaddy account, they transferred the domain name, okay, to another registrar. Now, when they did that, then they went back in the GoDaddy account and they literally deleted the account. So when the company who owns this domain name went into the GoDaddy and said, hey, someone stole our domain name. Well, GoDaddy literally said to them, we don't know you, we've never done business with you, because their account was deleted by the hacker. Well, apparently there is a problem with GoDaddy, and that if an account is deleted, GoDaddy all of a sudden has no history whatsoever that you even have done business with them ever, which is just wrong. So anyway, that took a week or two to finally get them convinced by uploading a passport, uploading documents from when they created their company, the legal documents, and some other documents. And then it had to be translated from Russian to English. I mean, because the original documents and corporation documents and passport, et cetera, all that it was in Russian. So that took them a few days to GoDaddy to figure out, oh, well, we don't need it in Russian because we don't understand Russian. You need to give it to us in English. That was another couple of days. Meanwhile, the hacker has gotten a copy of the website, put up the exact same copy of the website on another web host, and put a defamatory statement saying basically the owners of this company have been arrested and et cetera, and they're thieves and all that, which was untrue. So if anybody going to the website, okay, it was very obvious. This is a copy of the .com website. It was another TLD, the .com, and it was very clear that someone hacked in, because you wouldn't put this nasty message on your own website. That's insane. Meanwhile, till this day, after 11 weeks, that nasty message website has still been up and running. And so anyway, so we've actually had to file a URS dispute, which apparently, which is is a domain dispute system, which is supposed to be very quick. Okay, it's supposed to be done within 2 weeks, I understand. Well, we actually had a response within 24 hours, but apparently there was a snafu with the application, that there was the wrong checkbox checked. So regardless, it was sent, and then now we've still been waiting for another 2 weeks. So it has literally taken 11 weeks now, and this hacked, stolen domain name, which has this defamatory message on it, literally has been there, and for weeks now, ruining the reputation of this company. And GoDaddy and the TOD Registrar Solutions, which is owned by DirectNick, has basically been very difficult in this whole situation. And even though it's very obvious, because if you look at the website, that there's a that somebody wouldn't do that to their own website and ruin their own reputation. Well, GoDaddy doesn't really care. So and I understand that there's probably an issue with the fact that the hacker probably was asked about it, and the hacker probably faked some documents. And I suspect, this is my suspicion, I suspect that they faked some documents and sent some information and some kind of story to them. Yet there's defamatory statements on the website that basically is saying that the company's founders have been arrested and you shouldn't do business with this company. So regardless, we're waiting on this URS dispute in particular. Normally it's fast, but again, this is another case, very specifically, The bottom line here is that you need to protect your domain name. Be proactive on it. Don't let it get stolen in the first place. There are so many things you can do, because literally there's two companies now who have, one is major reputation problems, okay, because they're a website, their website has had this defamatory statement on there for weeks, which won't be removed. And not only that, there has this other Shopify website that's been down for weeks because it was stolen by the web designer. So bottom line, let's be proactive. If you need a list of things you can do to make sure you protect your domain name from getting stolen, I have those, and in other episodes I have mentioned those and gone through that list. And I also have a list on my website, billhartzer.com. So anyway, this has been the May 26, 2022 episode of the Digital Marketing with Bill Hartzer podcast. I will talk to you again next week. We are live. I am live every Thursday at 1:30 Mountain Time. And again, thanks for joining me this week, and we will talk to you later.